All right, it's been a minute, Ozzy, but it's time to get shaken or stirred today. Grab that. I know, right? Grab that mocktail, cocktail, or no tail, because things are about to get a little bit shaken or stirred. Today, what are we drinking, Ozzy?
Today, I'm trying to be healthy.
I want to know why, but okay.
I am having a green protein smoothie.
Oh, okay.
You know, what are you having?
Well, on the flip side, as people can tell, I have a raspy voice, so I'm coming off of a cold. So people bear with me. So I'm going to be chugging water today throughout our podcast.
Weren't you having like tea?
True. That is true. Maybe I should have considered that.
After the session.
Yeah, maybe after. Yeah. Well, Ozzy.
Yes, Alam?
What should we talk about today?
Well, we know what we're talking about. Why? Don't frame it as such. So today we're talking about, well, it's been a couple weeks, right? In the last couple of weeks, I feel like our lives have been a little uncertain. I've shared that with my current employer, with SVB. It's just been an interesting time there.
Yeah.
It was my first time going through that type of collapse at work for a bank, etc. And during that time, right, it just evoked a lot of uncertainty or uncertain emotions. And on the flip side, your end, you were also or are also going through challenging times at work.
Yeah.
And in your personal life. So at that point in time when our lives are kind of like not collapsing, but just going through some turmoil.
Yeah.
That we, in a sense, just decided to get up and go. And we kind of just ran away from our lives.
Yeah. And so, like, that's, like, our whole goal today. We want to talk about, like, why do people run, or why do we run in general? And so I think Ozzy did a really good job of setting it up. Like, I think you did a really good job there. So I'm kind of curious, like, from your perspective.
Why did I run? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. Why did you run? You kind of mentioned, like, work, but curious to know if was there anything else? What was happening for you to get you to be like, nah, I gotta pick up and go?
Well, the primary reason why I picked up and left or wanted to go to Puerto Vallarta or anywhere really.
Yeah, just get out of San Francisco.
To get out and breathe.
Okay.
I felt that it was primarily work, right? That was the first reason why I was like, I need to get out of here because I literally went through an emotional roller coaster where I was told, what was I told on the first day of the collapse? They're like, hold your horses, stop responding. No, it was literally like the government stepped in. They were like, hold your horses,
that moment,
stop responding. They took over, right? And we're just like, whoa. And then the next day I received an email saying, your role will be revised within the next 45 days, aka I'm reading between the lines that I'm being let go within the next 45 days. And then 2 days later, they were like, wait, never mind, we need you. Like,
what do you want from me?
What do you want from me? So the experience was definitely interesting. And luckily, right, I mean, I understand it, right? In a corporation, there's a lot to figure out. And especially in times like that, one has to be patient in that regard of living through uncertainty.
Yeah.
And given the fact that it was so uncertain, I was like, I need to pick up and breathe and like just like step away from what's happening because I don't know what's next for me.
Yeah.
So that was my main reason why I was like, Alam, I'm down to get out of here if you're down.
Right.
And then there is another reason.
I'm like, what's that?
Boys. That's the other reason, boys. I just needed to run away from boys to go find more boys over there. They're just everywhere, really. But no, in all seriousness, I was dating someone and I was enjoying my time getting to know this person, and one thing led to the next where it just, I didn't want to say it blew up, but it just kind of like blew up. It just crumbled apart. And it happened literally the evening of when we booked the tickets to go out of PV.
Yeah.
So it just like, the reason why I was leaving was work, and then just right
That
before we
happened.
leave, that happens. It's like, what's going on in my life? Why does
Right.
it just feel like it's just crumbling? It's not, I don't want to say it's crumbling, but emotionally, I'm going through like a lot of turmoil at that
Yeah.
point in time, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, I need to get out. I need to
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
And it's been over 3 years, 4 years since I've left the country. And I'm like, I don't even know what a boarding pass looks like. So
You're like, where's my passport?
where's my passport? And that was the first question you asked. You were like, are you sure it hasn't expired?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I freaked out for a second.
Yeah.
But it all worked out to
It did.
leave the country.
It did. Yeah, and then I think for me personally, on my side, there was just a lot also from the work aspect of it. I think there's something about like when you're working at a startup, and I had been working at a startup for quite some time now. It's very taxing, you know? And so what I hadn't done properly was take time off. And what I soon realized was, okay, something like I'm just off. I really need to get out. And when I realized truly, like I'm burnt out, and I didn't even realize burnout was a medical thing. It's a serious thing. And all this time, every single time I would hear someone say it, I thought it was, just
nonchalant.
right. Like it's that thing, the lingo,
An
like,
expression.
Exactly. I think the way that you're saying is like expression is the way that I always thought of it. I didn't really think about it much more than that. And it wasn't until medically someone had sent me what the triggers are and the factors are and the symptoms are. I was like, what? I've been feeling this way for many months now. Like almost a year, and I just didn't understand. And in my mind, I was thinking, no, it's just, people go through a slump after you go through routine after routine after routine. And especially coming back out of COVID, it's a lot. And so I think for me, that's when I was like, I'm going to take time out. And I wasn't sure what we were going to do. I was like, well, I guess I'll just sit at home. And then it's when you were like, come on, let's pick it up. Let's go somewhere. And that's when we booked it. And it was within like 3 days that we decided to leave, And it all worked out. And I think for that, as we did that, what was interesting was that we both decided to take this trip with a lot of intention. Historically, you and I have done trips before. We've gone to Greece before, and it was a longer trip. And we were thinking through, I did a lot of the planning, was let's go sightseeing. Let's go do everything that we need to do. For this one, because it was so spontaneous, there wasn't anything like that. We literally just said, here's our flight. Here's where we're living. That's it. That's it.
I loved it. I love how spontaneous it was. I've never felt... I'm so type A where I need to plan things. I need to know where I'm going, what I'm doing, what time, when, et cetera, and this felt very much, I'm out,
right?
And something about that felt so thrilling,
like liberating too, right? Because you're kind of stepping out of what you would.
I could breathe again,
right? And I think what was also interesting was, I don't recall if we had coordinated it. I don't remember, but I think the first thing that I saw you do when we got onto the flight was you opened up your journal and you started to write. And I didn't even know that you were bringing your journal. I don't even remember now, but you started writing and I was like, oh my God, what are the odds? I brought my notebook as well because I felt that I wanted to take this trip as a moment to really reflect and get back to myself and find who I am again. I don't know what I was going to discover, but figure and help myself. And so when you started to do that, I was like, what are we, we're just on the same wavelength with this trip. It was interesting that we both took it that way. And I remember you sharing. You literally wrote like a. I think you were like, "How many feet are we up in the air now?" And I said like 35,000 feet, and you're like, "Okay, thanks." And then you kept writing.
Just ran away.
Yeah, so like I'm curious, like, do you remember what you were writing in that moment? Because I know you shared it with me afterwards, but if you're willing, you know.
Yeah, so I remember to that point. I remember the opening line to that journal entry was something along the lines of, "I'm currently 35,000 feet above the air on my way to Puerto Vallarta." And then I go into explaining why I'm on my way to Puerto Vallarta, and just expressing how uncertain life feels, how I'm going through an emotional turmoil,
Yeah.
and how everything is just so unexpected, but at the same time, although it's so uncertain, in a sense, I felt some thrill behind it because I'm like, I need to learn how to let go when I can't control any situation. And that gave me some sort of relief to feel positive,
Right.
rather than going into negative thoughts.
Would like when you, because when I'm like reflecting back and I cannot remember either. Like I really don't think that we talked about bringing our journals, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong. What made you want to bring your journal? Like what, like is journaling a thing that you typically do? What triggered that?
Journaling, I picked it up when I started to go to therapy.
Okay.
And it was just something that I learned in order to cope with my emotions. Just because what I've learned is if I just keep my emotions in my head, they're just going to stay in my head.
Yeah.
Versus if I write them down on paper, they're on the paper and it helps me process my thoughts better. And so I was in a state where I needed to understand and reflect my emotions and how to move forward from that state, which is why I was like, I need my journal.
You need to take that.
But I don't journal on a daily basis. I journal
it.
when I can't necessarily process my emotions or thoughts. I need
Interesting.
to put it on paper.
Interesting. Wait, can I ask how long ago like did you start like
Journaling?
Yes.
On a consistent basis, when I did actually journal on a consistent basis, I just literally said that above. when I had to engage going to therapy. And at that point in my life, I was going through a significant breakup in my life, and I needed to understand how to process grief because I've never had to experience grief before. Thankfully, I've never lost a friend or family member, right? Like I've never experienced a sense of grief before. And in my experience, the first time I felt grief was when I was letting go of my past relationship.
Right.
And I just didn't know how to process all of that. And one, the loss of the relationship. Two, my self-esteem was in the shit. I went through such a horrible experience, I guess, in like the last part of that relationship. It was just so sad. I didn't know how to process at all any thoughts or emotions, and I knew I needed help, right? And so that's when I sought for help. I went to therapy, and one of the mechanisms that helped me was to journal. And now current day, I journal when I feel like I can't, like again, when I can't process those thoughts or emotions. It doesn't happen so often because
you've been working on it, right?
What I use it in order to really, I guess, let go of my stress or my thoughts is the gym. I feel like I spend my time there.
Yeah.
Where I just plug in my ears and I focus on my breathing, on my workout, and like my thoughts just kind of just disappear, go in the back of my head, and it shuts it down. And I use that as my therapy nowadays.
Okay.
But enough about me. I kind of want to take it back to your burnout.
Yeah.
I feel like it's when I started to hear you describe your experience, it feels like culturally, and I'm just speaking from my experience, culturally, you kind of just have to suck it up. Like work might suck, right? And what I've always heard is like, suck it up. Like people have it worse. Why are you complaining about having a job? You're getting paid well. Burnout, what is that? Like get over it. Like keep hustling, keep going. There's no such thing. Those emotions shouldn't exist. So I feel like I kind of heard that growing up when like people feel tired, or it could be perceived as being lazy. It's like, why am I being perceived as lazy
100%.
if I'm like mentally exhausted here?
Right.
And so hearing you feel as though burnout wasn't like a legit diagnosis, that I'm kind of curious to hear more of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that there's been moments where it feels monotonous, right? Like you
Yeah.
kind of go in, you do your thing, and then there are these, I don't know, like huge load. Like I think when you're in a certain state and all of a sudden there's a spike in something, right? Like maybe there's more things to do. Your role expanded, but you're not getting the same, like there are always components in a job that you need to always get to get some sort of satisfaction. But if only one thing is spiking, and that is the workload or whatever it may be, for each person it's a little bit different, then I think that's when, and it's not in your control. That's the other thing. It's not that it's kind of out of control. That's when I think it hits you. If you're on the high of like, I'm striving, I'm going after things, and you see the progressions, when you're in that state, it's different. When you're kind of doing this for many years, like running, and it could be interesting, let's be clear. It's not that like every single day is just monotonous. It could be, some days are great, other days are not, and you just kind of go with the rhythm of it. But there's a moment where things just kind of hit its tipping point. It's like your glass is completely full. That's what it feels like. And when I think through that, my parents' generation or our parents' generation, they didn't go to like, I don't know, they didn't go YOLO, I'm gonna go to
PV because I'm burnt out.
Yeah, like
you suck it up because we need to make ends meet.
Exactly. It's truly, if you don't go to work, there would be no food on the table. So there's no way.
Yeah.
And I think because I had witnessed that, it's the same thing, right? Like suck it up. You're emotionally
emotions, ignore those.
Yeah, like forget those emotions. Like there's no such thing as burnout, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, again, like it was this notion of an expression. Like when you're saying you're hella tired, right? Like I would just say I'm just tired. There would be weeks where after work on the weekends, if I didn't have any plans, I literally would just sleep all day. And that's part of the symptoms. Like you really just don't want to do.
You lazy.
Yeah. On the flip side, it's like you lazy. But the context is like, man, before, for many years, you've known me for quite some time, and you know how I felt about working out and being so religious towards that, and yet.
You hustled more than I did.
Yeah, and then over time, like as I've entered the startup world, man, I don't know what it is. No matter how hard I try to get back into it, it's just not even viable. And I don't even, and how frequently I was on top of it. And so it's just this weird feeling and moment that you just hit. And it's interesting that, I don't know, maybe it's truly our parents' generation was around like ends meet. Thankfully, praise the Lord that you and I are both not into that level, right? We have worked hard, and we aren't in that level of a state where every month, every paycheck, that's all we got, right? That's not, our parents taught us not to do that. And so we worked hard. We did everything in our power to be in the positions that we can be in. And so what's different is that their mindset is ingrained in us. And so for me in particular, that's what I'm constantly driving after, right? And I think I'm trying to come to terms with that it's not the same thing. And the level of work, let's be clear, they were working
a lot of hours too.
A lot of hours, and it wasn't corporate jobs.
No.
These are laborious jobs, like going to a factory, making chocolate, hours, like late in the night. Like my mom had worked at a candy factory and just making those candies by hand. And she would say like her hands curled up from doing it all day. My dad on the other side was working on an airbase but selling food out of a food stand. I mean, these are
same too. My dad or my parents, they're both cooks, and there will be times where they will come back home with like burn marks on their arms.
Exactly.
Or there was once where my mom came back with I forget what the machine she was using, but it chopped off her finger, her thumb.
Oh my god.
So it's like, they're going through these jobs where doesn't give them the luxury to
No.
feel or want to feel or accept that they're going through a burnout.
No, because truly, like, it's very labor intensive.
Yeah, you have to make ends meet, and you have children now, and you have all these bills to
Right.
pay for.
Right.
So now thinking, obviously, so it sounds like we both are clearly experiencing some type of emotional turmoil in our
Right.
own respective experience, and we both now are leveraging journaling
Yeah.
in some capacity. So in your position, how do you journal? Why do you journal? And does it help you?
No, it's a good question. Journaling for me, it started back in college. And I think it goes back. It's interesting. It all ties back to this notion of you just want to find a job and be stable and not, you were taught like not to be in our parents' position, right? Have
Right.
a labor intensive job. No, get into corporate job, make money, be stable, etc. So when you think about it, for me personally, the way that I was taught was, in order for you to get that type of a lifestyle or get into that path, the only way is to go to college. And so for me, what had happened was I got into college and Berkeley, like I went to Berkeley. It wasn't easy. It was very hard for me. It wasn't because like I was a stellar kid all throughout my younger years. I think what had happened for me was I just tried really hard. I think I got very lucky. I tell people all the time, I don't think I'm smart. I really do think that I try very hard. And I think I'm kind of actually like, I feel like I'm a little slow, to be honest. I don't know how, like maybe one of the like other podcasts, like we can talk about it, but it's weird. There's something about me where I don't pick things up very quickly. It may come across that way, but it's not internally. And so that's why I tell everyone, or I would tell my mom too, you keep saying you say I'm smart, but I'm not smart. I just try really, really hard. So by the time I got into Berkeley, because that's where my level was, everyone else was like actually smart. So it's very different from like you tried hard and then you somehow are in the class of smartness. But there are people who were like, didn't have to try much and they're just smart. So now I get into this cohort where this place is just filled with just smart, educated, like just brilliant people. And so I got to a point where I was struggling. Like I just couldn't find a major. Everything was impacted. I was like, I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's when I started to journal because again, like kind of when you were saying like some sort of emotional trigger caused you to do it. I think for me, that's what was happening. Like I literally was at a loss of words. And I kind of spun journaling as a way of doing, since I'm religious, like Christian, doing quiet time. So that's how it all started. I started to do quiet time, pray, journal, read the Bible, rinse and repeat. And then that spun out to when things got really rough, just write whatever my thoughts are, then go back to, journaling and doing QT. And then that has now constantly evolved. And so when I'm similar to you, it's not that I journal every day, but there are moments where I will write and it's just mindless thoughts. It's not when I want to collect thoughts or I have something in my mind and I know what I want to say. No, it's like truly, it's just all over the place.
It's a word vomit.
It's a word vomit of all things. Sometimes there are no conclusions. Sometimes it goes from one conclusion to the next conclusion. It's just very, I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone should ever read anything that I write. So when we were in the plane, you're like, oh, if you want, you can share something of yours. I was like, yeah, like because Ozzy was gracious and he shared his, and I was reading it and I was like, well, this is beautifully written. Like, you could probably sell this in a book, right? But for me, like, if you were to read mine, you'd be like,
what is she going through?
Yeah, like what the heck is wrong with her? So for me, I mean, when in that moment, it was just I needed to bring that, and I wanted to take a moment to just get my thoughts and almost reconnect with God is kind of how I wanted to do it, because clearly my life was a mess, and I don't think that there's nothing else that I could grab to help guide me or direct me. I don't have educated parents to tell me what to do. I just don't have all of the resources that some folks do. And so for me, like, God is the anchor. And that's kind of what I was hoping to do and trying to rekindle and reconnect and get my mind back to what I know, right? Like, things are out of our control.
Yeah. It's so much out of control. And then shortly thereafter, so clearly now we touched on the topic of why we ran away.
Right.
So we get to Puerto Vallarta or PV. We get there. What were your highlights?
Oh my goodness, the highlights. I think that honestly, one of the things that I really enjoyed, and I talked about it, was like we were there and it was clear that I was different from everyone else, right? I was
meaning
like I was the only Asian person. There was very little Asian people. Let's just put it that way. And the thing is, it felt very safe. And to me, that was one of the moments of like a highlight, I guess, in an interesting way, because I didn't know what PV was gonna bring, right? The last time I had gone to Mexico was in Cancun, and for whatever reason, when I was there, I didn't feel, when I got, like, it didn't feel as safe. I don't know why, but it didn't feel as safe. And when I got here, I was like, well, I can definitely tell I'm different, but no one is ever treating me in a way that I don't feel safe. And coming from the fact that we're just running away, picking up and going, how would I mean, you had not been there either. And I kept asking, like, what do you think? Like, is it like, we're both like, I don't know, we'll just go with the flow. And
I don't know, I just look like that, man. We're here, I speak the language, we're good.
We're fine. Yeah, and I think that was like when I retroactively think about it, it's definitely a highlight, because I remember telling you about it.
Yeah, you
too.
pointed it out. I didn't pick up on it. Honestly, it's just, I don't know. Until you pointed it out, I'm like, there's only white people here, and there's only brown people here, and you're the only Asian person. I didn't pick up on it. Well, I picked up on the fact that there were a lot of older white gay men there. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of you here. That felt interesting from my perspective.
Interesting. Like what do you mean interesting? In like a good way, bad way, neither here nor there way?
Couple thoughts. First thought is, I want to be, I guess, rich enough for me to just like be this middle-aged man chilling in PV.
Oh my god.
You know?
Wouldn't we all?
That's like where my first thought goes to. And then the second thought, I'm like, ew, creep.
Oh man.
Because they would just, I mean, we're in like La Zona Romantica, which is a gay district, and as a gay man, obviously I'm going to be scoping out the talent.
Checking it out, yeah.
I'm like, where's the talent? So that's where I'm like, you know, like, I'm not in need of a sugar daddy, so bye. So that was interesting, but I appreciated all our lived experiences there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I think we had a really beautiful, we were fortunate enough to have a beautiful Airbnb that was recommended by another friend, and I think that space truly was where it really allowed me to re-anchor myself. I was a hot mess before going, and it also anchored me. And I think I remember sitting, I think it was the first day. In the morning, you had already woken up early, and you were doing your meditation and journaling once again. And I think like a couple days later, I was like inspired from what you were doing, and I decided, when you were, I think you were working and I decided I'm gonna go do some journaling out there. And I remember just sitting out there in the quiet and hearing the noises and I recorded it because I thought it was just so serene, beautiful, peaceful. It kind of brought me back down to earth around, we're in a metropolitan city and we're just go. The people there are, like they're tourists. It is like
Yeah, my favorite part was when we would go grab coffee and pan dulce in the morning.
Oh,
I'm living for this.
Like we should be enjoying life, and I think that's what I realized. Like
the pace of life, the responsibility of enjoying yourself as a human, versus want to make ends meet.
Exactly, and and those sounds and just being close to nature, you know, God's creation. I don't know, it just like calmed me quite a bit, and that's why it made me so emotional too, and I had to record it. I still sometimes play it just because I want to reflect and remember that moment, because being back in the city, it just feels like, and especially in San Francisco, everyone is striving to go do something, right? They're in a startup, they're a millionaire, billionaire, they're starting up new things. Like, it makes you kind of question yourself, like, why?
Am I trying hard enough?
Yeah, like, I need to be there. Like, people in our age who are, I don't know, CEOs or, you know, multimillionaire. You're kind of like, what is happening?
What am I doing?
What are we doing? Why aren't we getting to that level? And the thing is, like, that really anchored me back down to be, you know, appreciative. Outside of that, that's kind of from my perspective, and of course the food and the beautiful beach and the views. But for you, like, what was your highlights?
Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks? No, 3 weeks.
No, it's been 3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks.
Yes.
No, 4 weeks.
Has it been a month?
I think it's been a month, actually.
Yeah, you're right. It's been a month. Yeah.
So initially, not current day, reflecting back on the experience, I noticed that when we left PV, I started to get, all this anxiety was starting to come back up again.
Oh no.
And I was all like, why am I feeling anxious? Like, this trip was fun. Like, why am I getting anxious? What's going on? Like, my anxiety just struck all of a sudden when we were on the way to the airport. I'm like, I had like a blast, you know. I experimented with the fashion boutique that we went to. I found some really cute pieces. So for the audience, we found this really cute gay boutique where I found very like clothes that are meant to be for men, but very more on the feminine side. So I was able to buy very cute pieces like crop tops, underwear, like lingerie, like really cute, right? And I was living for it. I'm like, oh my God, I look like a bombshell in this. And so one lucky person will get to see it one day. But I mean, you saw it.
I saw it all.
You saw everything. Oh Lord. But that experience very much inspired me to it just made me like a little kid again. I'm like, oh my God, finally something that's cute on me, fits me, looks well on me. And it was just like a great experience. And then also going to, given the fact that we were in the gay district, that there were bathhouses there, right?
Yes.
And I felt very much more apprehensive of going to a bathhouse alone. Obviously, you can't come with me because it's gay men only, right?
Yeah. When you first talked about it, you were like, yeah, there's bathhouses. Okay, great. Yeah, let's go. And you're like, well, it's only not for you.
You can't go in.
And I was like, oh, okay, well.
And I didn't want to do it alone.
Yeah.
But it's very much more of a gay cultural experience. I'm in a new city and different country. I'm like, why not? Like, I need to push my boundaries even further. And so going with my own discomfort, I mean, I checked it out. I'll keep it PG, but it was definitely unexpected. And do I regret doing it? No, I mean, it was fun. It was cool. I'm glad I did it because in a sense it kind of encourages me nowadays, current day, to want to explore other things alone versus seeking company, if that makes sense.
No, yeah. It's that I think for me too, I think there was this one moment many years ago, and I was single back then, and I felt that I'm one of those people for sure cannot go anywhere by myself. Like, I don't like, especially eating. I think eating is one of those things. I just can't. I can eat by myself at home. I will deliver it and take it home and eat by myself. But no way would I eat at the restaurant. Would I go to the movies by myself? You would never see me do that. And so the one time that I did this was in New York because it was those individual stalls. And so kind of, you know, that Japanese style where it's one per person. So you literally are just eating by yourself.
Right.
I did that by myself, and it was like, it was an experience. I even got emotional when I did it because it was such a thing that I could not, difficult for me to do.
Interesting.
And I never went back. And for me, I wasn't able to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. But I'm glad for you it was an empowering moment.
I went to a coffee shop just like the last week or this week to work out of the coffee shop. I'm
Nice.
like versus staying at home. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go out and just whatever happens at the coffee shop, to work. And I don't think I would have done that before, just to get up and go and work out of a coffee shop when I could just simply work from home. But I definitely felt empowered. So there were like several good experiences in PV that allowed me to explore myself, my inner likings, my inner childs, like seeing myself in that boutique or at the bathhouse or even just us enjoying the champagne with oysters, like glass, right?
Oh dear, those champagnes did us.
Yeah.
Our pockets hurt.
Oh Lord. Anyways, but like the point that I am going towards too is when we were headed back to the airport to come back home, all this anxiety started to come back up again. And I started to question him, like, why is the anxiety coming back? I thought I already processed my emotions, but obviously 3 days is too quick to process any kind of emotion.
I know. You're in like this like
I'm like, fuck.
Didn't work. I thought it did.
Yeah. So all these emotions were once again resurfacing. I'm like, now to come back to what I was trying to avoid, right? Like, okay, now time to look for a job. What's out there?
Right.
And being able to understand what's next for me in that regard. And now current day, feeling a lot better. 1 month later, definitely feeling a lot more stable emotionally and mentally.
Good. So to me, it sounds like, well, I'm going to throw the question. Is running away
a healthy thing to do?
Yes.
Not at all. Because, so I went to Coachella this past weekend.
Right.
And although it was already planned, it just happened that...
It's all happening together.
It's all happening at the same time with my emotions, work, dating. It's all happening at the same time with Coachella. And yeah, I get there, but the emotions are very much still like a little tender. They're scabbing, if we will.
Right.
You know?
Oh, so I love that. I like that wave. Like I'm literally picturing it, and I can really understand how you feel.
Yeah. So it's healing, but it's there kind of thing. Yeah. And so even a friend made a comment. They're like, after Coachella, they were like, "Did you enjoy yourself?" I'm like, "Sorry, I was just kind of in my own head through the trip." And coming back from it, now I feel like I'm starting to regain a focus on I'm going back inwards. I'm trying to refocus on my needs, on my wants, and how I could lift myself back up again.
Okay.
And really understanding my value. I mean, I understood it, but it's just harder to work through or understanding your value or remembering your value when you're going through hard times.
Right. I 100% get that.
So then coming back from Coachella, I experienced anxiety once again. I'm like, here we go, back to reality.
So running away for you isn't really helpful.
No. And so what's funny is that, so the day after we get back from Coachella, I go to the gym. I'm like, I need to go release all these toxins from inside of me. You know, like I need to go like work out, sweat, go hit the steam room, etc. Do some self-care. And then I'm like, I need to book a trip to New York next weekend. I'm like, wait, why? Like, so I didn't question it at that point, actually. So I get online, I look for trips to New York, and they're relatively reasonably priced to go next weekend, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, already? Like, I'm like, no. Like, and then I started to do a little bit more reflecting, and I was like, wait, it looks like every time you leave and come back, you're experiencing some sort of anxiety when you're going back to your life.
So you're like running.
I'm avoiding.
You're on this high of running because you know that in that moment I'm
gonna forget.
Yeah.
I'm gonna experience something new, and when it's done, I'm like FML. Now I'm going back to what I was trying to avoid.
I see.
Or not necessarily avoid. It's just like my day-to-day living. You know, like it's there. I can't avoid not knowing what's gonna happen with my livelihood through the next year.
Wow.
So. And that is why I decided not to book that trip. I'm like, I'm not trying to avoid my emotions. Because at the end of the day, if I don't process my emotions, I know that I'm just still going to repeat the same dumb cycle.
Interesting.
which is why New York a trip's not happening.
Yeah. I think for me, I think that I feel differently from you, actually. I think running helped because I was in such a distraught state. Like, it was like an unmanageable state that for me, had I not done that, I don't think I would have been in this state. I think, am I fully recovered? No. Am I still feeling anxiety, some of the feelings and sensations? Yeah, absolutely. But to the magnitude that I was feeling it man, if that trip didn't happen, I don't think I could have like managed at all. And similar to you, I had a pre-planned Italy trip, and even that going into it was anxiety driving. And then when I was there, I couldn't relax for the first day or so. It was like I was still running on my life, in San Francisco. And once I did do that and I came back, again, anxiety did come back in. But the difference was, if I were to compare what it was pre-PV to today, it's definitely in a better, it's like kind of, it's in a better state. So to me, I would say, is running good? I don't think it's bad, especially if you take it with good intention. For the Italy trip, I actually did take my journal once again because I wanted to reflect and get back, kind of anchor myself. And what I'm learning is, man, if there's so much that you could do if you put it with good intention and know why you're trying to do it. Even though, to be fair for the audience, Italy was not, that was like a pre-planned,
for sure,
I just want to go explore the world. Going back to the roots of when we used to go on vacation all the time, we'd be like, all right, let's go to Santorini, let's go explore.
It was pre-planned, it was in the books, in the works.
Like, you want to see everything, you want to sightsee everything, you want to, like, it was very much so that, but even then from the PV experience, I was thinking to myself, how can I at least emulate some of that in Italy? And I did do a little bit of it, which is why I think it helped, at least for me.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm glad I took these trips because in a sense I do need an outlet to breathe.
Like, it's almost like treating yourself.
Yeah.
You treating yourself a little bit kindly, right? And not being too hard on yourself.
Right.
In the same environment. And an environmental change, I think, is actually quite healthy.
Yeah.
Will it resolve everything? I don't think so. But I think if you know that it's not going to do that, that helps. You're anchoring yourself as you're doing it.
For me, it helped me understand my feelings because it just was so spontaneous that I didn't have opportunity to think about before, it was just, I need to go, like, it's in the works, the stars are lining up and booked.
We're going, I
didn't have time to think about my emotions, but coming back, I'm like, whoa, where are these emotions coming from? And that's when I started to pick up on the fact that I haven't really processed any emotion.
Interesting. Wow, today's topic went like really deep.
Running is good if you do it with a positive intention.
Yeah, I agree. With today's topic, how are you feeling? Are you feeling shaken? Are you feeling stirred? Where are you at today?
I'm a little shaken, and I'm just thinking about like that shaker that makes the drinks, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like my day-to-day life currently feels like it's being just shaken around, not really knowing what direction to take or what path to go on, and it kind of gives me the opportunity to really try to take control of where to go next or explore an opportunity of where to go next, and the world is mine.
On the flip side, for me, I feel a little stirred. I'm literally thinking, when you get a soju bottle and I don't know, for those that are familiar, like, it's a Korean, I would say like an equivalent of a vodka drink, but it's in a green bottle, and a lot of TikTokers and Instagram videos do that like, that tornado inside, and I feel that.
Oh.
I feel like the spiral of stirring.
The drink.
Stirring of that soju bottle. It's been a lot. I feel like I'm running and I'm like bumping around, twirling around, and trying to process, and hopefully that water, at one point that twirling slowly stops and it settles itself, right? And I think I'm still in it. I'm still in that stirring, and I'm hopeful that we'll get out of it. And so when I think about this topic that around running, I'm like, yeah, I'm still in it. I'm still getting twirled around.
I'm still being shaken.
Yeah. Wow.
But overall, I feel like I'm glad those trips happened. I feel like it was needed in order to actually understand how I feel and what I'm thinking and where I'm trying to go next.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful people. You've heard us vent a little bit, or at least I use this opportunity to process more of my emotions in a sense. Hope you feel a little shaken, maybe a little stirred. Life is crazy right now. I feel like for a lot of people, it's turmoil. All I'm hearing is like people experiencing something in their lives that are just making them question their thoughts, their emotions, their lives. It's just, I feel like it's just not us going through this turmoil. I feel like a lot of people are actually, there's something in the air. All right, beautiful people. Good catching up. See y'all next time.
All right, catch you later. Bye.